What is with all of these YouTubers? And I guess that's probably going to include me. Of course, I haven't done it yet. Actually, I'm going to do it. The thumbnail on this is going to be kind of, oh, baity, I guess we'll call it. Like you, I'm watching this stuff. I'm new at this, and I want to do things a little better. I like to see things happen, but I want them to be organic. I don't want to artificially inflate numbers with gimmicks. But I'm getting a lot of YouTube content fed to me about starting YouTube at whatever age, over 40, over 50, over 60. And I appreciate that from somebody who is in that age bracket. One gentleman comes to mind. He's genuine about it. But I'm seeing people that do not look like they're in the age bracket that they're targeting their video for. And okay, I get it. Views are views, watch hours are watch hours, closer to monetization. But what if you're not interested in monetization at this moment? What if that's not the main goal for you? And I did this as a means to an end to produce a show that people would like, and then hopefully somebody else would take it. And that's where we're heading eventually. But in the meantime, I'm getting distracted with this because this is actually kind of groovy. I'm digging it. And I like the fact that I have 13 subscribers right now. That to me is awesome. There's 13 people out there that clicked the button and said, I'll take what this dude has to say for a little while, unless he irritates me, and that's quite possible. But I had to think about people's motivation, and I can't say what mine is should be yours. Because if you are looking at this as a monetization thing, then yes, you're probably going to want to get that going as quickly as possible. It just makes sense. But at what cost? I don't know. So when you get into YouTube, there's a couple ways you can do it. Obviously, you can do the thing where I need money, I want to have a lot of money. And you see that it might be possible using YouTube as a vehicle to get you there. I don't think the ad revenue off YouTube alone will provide you with, a huge house and a huge car and a huge mortgage. But the other things that you can produce, that you can advertise through your YouTube channel, yeah, they can too. But that said, what about us hillbillies that just want to have a little fun? Now, I started thinking about my grandmother, and she died in 1982, and I'm 50 years old. And I remember my grandfather had this beautiful garden. It was about a third of an acre. It was huge, actually. And he tended to it because he was a farmer. And this was between our home and their home. Well, my father did like a lot of people do who are children of farmers. They take a piece of land on the outskirts of the farm and build their house. And so we had this big patch of garden separating us. And my grandfather just really tended to it. To me, it was beautiful. I wouldn't know if it would be award winning or not. I've never seen anything like it. Never did. And I've never seen anything like it since. And it fed two families. And here's what my grandmother would do is she would take these vegetables and these fruits that my grandfather would grow. They actually had some peach trees in Delaware, of all places, some peach trees, I believe a pear tree, and some strawberry plants. And my grandmother would can and preserve these fruits and vegetables. She'd put them in the ball jars with the lid and the little retainer thing, and then she'd put them in a pressure cooking device to pressurize them, and then they would be good for months and years, and we could have fresh stuff all year long. And okay, that makes sense. But then what she would also do is she would give them to other women up and down the road that we grew up on. It was a rural area. We didn't really have any next door neighbors. I mean, my next door neighbor was my grandparents about 2/10 of a mile away. And the other ladies would be doing the same thing. And they would give my grandmother some of their stuff because, okay, everybody's growing the same green beans, but everybody had their own way of putting these things up, as they call them, canning them. Even there was no can, it was all jars. They all had their own little way of doing it. And Mrs. Dempsey had her way. My grandmother had her way. And I forget the people that were further down. They had their way. Oh, and then the people very far at the end, the Fickners, they had corn. They would grow corn as a product on their farm. And then they would have like a little stand out front that they would sell corn, and you went and picked up your corn and you put your money in a box or a jar. And nobody ever back then didn't do that. That's for another discussion. But that was what my grandmother and the women along that road would do. They would just share things amongst each other. So when you think about it, those vegetables that my grandmother was canning and putting up and preserving, that was a negative in the checkbook. My grandfather would buy the seed. He would plant them. He would expend his energy and time to grow them. He bought fertilizer for them. He, whatever else, he would have to buy, he'd have, buy wire so the beans could have something to grow up. And then they would just eat them and give them away. So when it comes to dollars, that cost money. Yes, they had food. They were growing food. So you could say on the other end, it balanced out. But then they would just give it away. They have extra. They take it to a church function once a year maybe and put them up for, 50 cents a jar or something like that, maybe get $1 or $2 over the course of the weekend. But that wasn't the goal. The goal was to grow, to enjoy their own, and to share with people up and down the road. And that's what the other people were doing too. It was a way to have food for effort. My grandfather would spend minimal on seed and product, and then he would put his effort into growing this stuff. And then they share it. And right now, for YouTube and me, that's sort of what my goal is. Again, if somebody wants to back a truck full of money up to my house and dump it on me, I'm not going to tell them to go away. But that's not what I'm growing towards, and that's not the tactics I'm going to employ to keep this thing going. But I will try it a little bit because I want to experiment to see, what's kind of out there, what works. It's sort of like, do you remember back when you were younger, they used to sell combs at convenience stores on the little card or at the barber shop or something like that? It was a plastic comb to comb your hair, and it would say the unbreakable comb. You can break those. And you know how I know? Is because I broke them to see if they would break. Is this really unbreakable? So my natural curiosity to see if some of these techniques, hacks, and tips work, I may try. Again, I don't want to trick anybody, so I want to be a little transparent about it. So, stick around and see how this works out. But if you're going to do this for money and you want to monetize as quickly as possible, then maybe, you might want to watch some of those things and cherry pick what might work for you. And, more power to you if that happens. That's cool. I'm going to play. This is just playtime for me right now. And for probably the entire run of me on YouTube, this will probably be a negative income. This is going to cost me money. I don't expect this to ever return a penny. Cool if it does, but it's not going to happen by my design. So good luck on your YouTube journey. I think it's awesome. I did not expect to find this as interesting as I have found it. And to the 13 subscribers, I'm happy if that's all we ever have, just the 13 of us. Because I'll be honest with you, if I did some sort of trick, tip, or hack that somebody told me to do, and I woke up tomorrow morning and there was thousands, I'd probably be a little nervous then. But right now, this is comfortable. This is like, you guys can fit in my house and we can have fun. So I'm thinking right now, the whole thing's a success. If it never goes any further than this is cool. So you take care of yourself. I'm going to get out of here. And good luck growing that channel. I'll see you somewhere on the YouTubes.